Okay. Okay. Years ago, I was with a girl that I thought was going to be my wife. She was one of these beautiful, thick Hispanic girls. You know, the kind of one that usually a lot of people always like desire in the internet. This was that specific kind of girl. But not only in the physique, we actually had a lot of compatibility in the ideas and her personality, and it was such a beautiful time together. But when it came to sex, the thing wasn't working. And it wasn't because of her, but because of me. I just wasn't able to perform properly. One of the main factors was that I wasn't able to last enough, as much as she would like or as much as I would like, and because of that, the whole energy during the session was messed up. But there were also other things like the fact that I was always nervous, that I wasn't able to have that confidence or dominance over her, but also the fact that I was like weak. You know, I was like all shaky and nervous. I have like this kind of bitchy frame in the physical part and the mental part. I knew that it was something that I needed to improve, and I actually did it after a while. It took me a couple of years, to be honest, to finally fix this. And when we had sex again, it was great. But unfortunately, after all the bad past experiences that we had, a lot of things were lost. She lost a lot of respect and the positive perspective that she used to have for me, to the point where she started to see me more of this like, just let's say, not that much of a man. It was too late for those other parts of our relationship. We couldn't recover those things, and unfortunately we ended up breaking up. And to avoid these big pitfalls in your relationship with your woman, I want to share some advice about what to do when your girl, your wife, your girlfriend is sexually frustrated. First of all, my name is Jesus Noya. I'm a Venezuelan sex coach with the goal of helping men to last longer in bed, become sexually dominant, and be more attractive. All this while avoiding the deadly mistakes that I made through my sex life. This comes from my years of experience dating in South America and all the struggles that I had to go through, like premature ejaculation, performance anxiety, and non-existent sexual confidence. When we as men don't have that performance that we would like to have in bed, maybe we don't last as much as we would want, or we don't have that kind of powerful and dominant presence, our girl usually notices this, and it's like some kind of frustration and bad feelings built inside of her. Either she expresses it or not, it is a common reality for women to feel like this. Actually, I would say that most men nowadays don't know how to actually have sex properly. Most guys usually think that they're at least decent, but the reality is that they're just mediocre. They think that they're good because they're average or slightly above average. But as we're gonna say just now, that's not actually a good thing. We're gonna dive in right now in what are the areas that you have to focus on if you start to realize that your wife is getting frustrated sexually for any reason. Usually a lot of white guys or blue-haired kind of people would advise things like have a strong communication with your partner. That's the most important thing. And it's like, yeah, it is important, right? I'm not saying that it's not. But in my experience, and you probably have noticed this as well, women sometimes are not like skilled enough to communicate what is their actual needs when it comes to attraction, sex, or this whole male-female dynamic. It is not necessarily because they're mean or they want to make things complicated. It is more like a natural thing if you think about it, right? It would be lame if your girl has to tell you like, hey, I would like you to man up to be more dominant during sex. That probably would hurt your feelings because it's like she's saying that you're a little bit of a bitch, but this may be the case. The thing is that women are not going to usually say this. She's not saying in her mind like, yeah, I would like for my boyfriend to actually have sex with me properly. She's going to usually like sugarcoat things a little bit more like, yeah, he's cute. I mean, he could be better, but yeah, you know, he's cute. And this is usually more the case with those kind of feminine, pinky, like girly girls, you know? Those kind of girls are a little bit more like emotional and shy. So yeah, with communication, you can still get like some good insights to work on, but they're not going to be specific enough to make a significant change. If you don't believe me, you can go and try it, but I'm telling you that I already tried this, and believe me, it never ends up well. So having that clear, let's go on the real things that are usually frustrating women. The first one, as I mentioned, and it used to be my main problem as well, is the duration of sex. Basically lasting longer in your case, right? Learning how to last longer and control your ejaculation as much as you can. Let's be real, most men don't even know, like it's not even a reality in their mind that they can actually learn how to control their ejaculation totally. I know this because when I was with a couple of friends and I was like telling them that I was going into this journey to improve my sex life overall and I wanted to learn this skill of like whole ejaculation, they say like that was something impossible. Like there's no way to do that at all. That it's usually like around 5 to 10 minutes, and that's it. That's the normal thing for them, and for most men, it's supposed to be like that. And I was like, no, like actually, if you're lasting around 5 to 10 minutes, that maybe, I mean, even if your wife is telling you that that's great, it actually could be way better than that. Actually, she may even say that because she's being gentle, but in their mind, it was like, no, that is impossible. I told them even that I already knew guys that mastered this skill, and they just thought that they were lying. In that moment, I realized that that's actually like the average way of thinking. Most men are just complacent with their current timing in bed. And it also makes sense why so many women are sexually frustrated. Because as someone that used to suffer from ejaculation, I know that is something that can really mess things up. And the fun stuff here is that it's not necessarily that you have to like reach a certain specific time to have a satisfactory sex session. Some sessions could be longer, some sessions could be shorter, and it could be still very satisfactory. The main thing is how much would you guys like it to last. What I mean by this is that if you guys are having sex and it's like very pleasurable and everything is going well, and it reached to a point where you guys want to like keep going and you just can't, like you're unable to do that at all, no matter how much effort you put in this, that is very lame. And this could happen with 3 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever, right? The thing is that you're just unable to go past that point. This is always going to build up a lot of frustration in your woman. I met a girl, for example, a friend that she was dating an ex-guy, and the guy would usually last around like 50 minutes, right? That's actually very average for most men, maybe a little bit above average. And she would say that sometimes it was like okay, but a lot of times she would like things to last longer, and the guy wasn't able to do it at all. And because of that, she ended up breaking up things with him because it wasn't what she wanted. Let me fix myself here a little bit. So this guy, even if he was above average, it wasn't working. Because again, the main point is having control over your ejaculation, your body, going to the point where you guys actually want to go with no restriction. I know this is a skill that may be a little bit difficult to build up, but it's totally worth it, man. And it's totally possible to do it. You're gonna have to work on your things like your breathing, your mental state, the connection between your mind and your body, your physical health. And eventually, the more practice you put on this, the better it's going to be until you reach to the point where you basically know exactly how to command your body to basically contract the ejaculation in the moment you want to. In my experience coaching people to achieve this, it may be different which ones you're constrained to be able to control your ejaculation, but the practices are very universal. You need three main things. First of all, a good and healthy state of mind. Basically that your mind when you're having sex is totally clear, there's no thoughts in there. You can improve this mainly by meditating, as I said a bunch in other videos. This is probably like the biggest leverage that you can have when it comes to your mental state around sex. You can also do things to decrease your anxiety. That is also a thing that constrains a lot of people when it comes to sex performance. And in order to connect your mind to your body, deep breathing helps a lot. Meditation, journaling, deep breathing, and your mental part is already done. After you have these things in place, you have to make sure your physical health is on point, make sure that you have a good cardiovascular health, and that your hormonal health is actually in place. Because if your cardio is terrible, as it is for most guys that are very like fatty, and even the muscular guys that don't train cardio at all, you know when you're having sex, it's like doing cardio, you're like breathing a lot, and if you're not able to control that, it's going to be very difficult to control your ejaculation as well, because your body is like in a state of emergency. But by improving your cardio, this is going to be like a little bit more like easy pace, and you're able to think consciously about commanding other parts in your body, in this case the muscles that control ejaculation. And with your hormonal health, I've seen this a lot also, that when you have like low testosterone, that's like the man's sex hormone, I don't know exactly which one is the mechanism, but there are things that are just not working properly, and one of those things could be your timing. It is like logical, right? If testosterone and your hormonal health is one of the things that play like a big role in your sexuality, if these things are on point, it makes sense for things like your timing, that is such an important part of your sexuality, maybe working kind of crappy because of this. So that's the second part. And the last part is your emotional connection and what kind of like links and bonds you have with your partner. I've seen a lot of guys, for example, that are just having sex with random girls, and they don't have like any any kind of connection with them. It's like they're just masturbating with their bodies. It's like just having sex for the sake of having sex. And when that happens, sometimes they don't perform as they used to be, for example, with girls that they used to be in relationships. I know the story of a specific guy that used to have sex like no problem when he was with his girl in a relationship for around 4 years. They break up, he went through a period of depression, and when he started to like have just random hookups in Tinder and other places, his dick just didn't work. And if it was working and he tried to put inside, then he would like finish around 3 to 5 minutes. A big part of this was his mental state, but also the kind of connection that he was having. Basically, it was like something deep inside of his heart that was saying, this is not good for us, let's just finish this as quick as possible. So I know that went a little bit specific in there, but if you want to last longer in bed, focus on those 3 things: your mental state, the practices that I mentioned, your physical health, and your emotional connection. And eventually, maybe without even realizing, the next time you're gonna have sex, you're gonna be able to last as much as you would like. The next thing that is also very important, that is causing a lot of frustration for women in general, is the kind of sexual dominance that a lot of men lack nowadays. This is mainly because in the last decades, this kind of masculine or male dominance, it has been seen as cringe, as toxic, as misogynist, all that kind of BS, right? So men has been encouraged way more to be like this kind of softy, I don't even would say necessarily weak, but more like this kind of soft boy guys, you know? This has been turning what it is expected from a guy. Even when it comes to sex, they also expect it to be like soft and gentle. If not, he's like a rapist or something similar. But unfortunately, this has been causing a lot of this boring, lame sex performance in men, because they're usually scared of crossing a line that they're not sure if that's what they're supposed to do. There's something inside of them, in their male behavior, that is telling them to dominate, to actually go harder, to go more on this animalistic approach when it comes to sex, but they're being totally stopped because of the social construction on what everyone has been saying recently. When that is actually what women want as well. Women want a man that is able to totally dominate them on bed, that is able to go and cross the lines, that be that kind of dominant and powerful version of themselves, that become like a total animal in bed. Women want those things. Believe me when I tell you this, even the most like angelic looking girl, those kind of pinky Hello Kitty soft girls, even those, or maybe specifically those who love, lust, and desire a man that is able to totally dominate them in bed. And what is exactly that dominance? There are 2 things. One is like that intensity that you're able to have sex, basically how hard and fast you're able to thrust. That's in the physical part, and a lot of men are constrained to do this mainly by things like their physical health, or in other cases about how much they last. It's like they can reach certain intensity because they just finish. If that's the case for you, you can work on the things that I already mentioned. And the second thing, when it comes to dominance, is more like the psychological perspective that you have with your relationship and with you as a man. What I mean by this is that when you're having sex, you have to go there with this kind of like commanding, confident, and powerful energy that has to be in your face, in your body, in your movements. You can't be there like all shaky and nervous, your voice kinda breaking up with everything that you're saying, and maybe like scared with the movements that your girl is making. I know this because that used to be me, right? That's how I used to act. And even if sometimes I tried to act like dominant, like trying to pull her hair or anything, it felt weird because my energy was coming not from that dominant man, but more from this submissive guy. And even when I was trying to like do the actions to be a little bit more dominant, it felt weird, it felt out of place because I didn't have that energy. So focusing on upgrading your self-image and your energy to be more of this kind of masculine, powerful, and dominant male is going to have a very, very great positive impact in your sex life and when it comes to your sex dominance. You're gonna see that you're able to dodge and move in a way that express like confidence. That anytime you're saying something, whatever you want, you're doing more with this like commanding and dominating. And girls usually feel like horny, maybe even get wet just from this energy. And when it is something that you're lacking, things just feel like boring for them. It is like, yeah, it's nice and she may enjoy it from time to time, but it's like there's something big missing. I know this because with the gears that used to be when I was acting like that bitchy version of myself before, I could, for example, go down of them for a while, and even if I was great doing this, and she would even like come and everything, they wouldn't want those things. They would actually reject me and even say that they don't want that at all, that they actually maybe like a little bit mad at me because that's not what they wanted. What they wanted from me was the dominant and masculine sex that I wasn't giving them. And even if they didn't express that that's what they wanted directly, I know that's the reality today. So if you notice that you probably haven't been like the most dominant or masculine guy, or that you probably have been going with this soft approach for a while and your kid is probably not enjoying it as much, maybe it is time to change things a little bit. Now the last thing, and super important as well, if your woman is getting sexually frustrated, even if you think you're doing everything right sexually, it may be because of you as a person. Let me tell you a story to clarify this first. I had a friend that was with a guy, and at the beginning I didn't understand why they were together, because the guy for me was like an absolute loser, right? He was ugly, he wasn't in shape, didn't have money, he had like, you know, like a place and a shitty car, but for me that wasn't enough to attract this kind of girl that was my friend. So when I asked her like, what did you see on him, she started to say that it was the sex. To be honest, like, she wasn't going to lie, it was mainly the sex, like the size, the performance, how much he was lasting. It's like he was sex god for her, right? Like it was perfect, like absolutely perfect. And I was like, I mean, even if today that is like totally contrary to my values, back then I was thinking like, okay, fair enough, like that makes sense. But after a couple of months, the relationship just started to die. Actually, to the point where she was even feeling disgusted for having sex with him. And this was strange. When I started to ask her what happened, hey, like, has something changed? Like, sex started to be bad? Did he start to do something different? I said like, no, it is actually the same. Like, he's still being great. And it was like, okay, but so what changed? Like, why you don't want to be with him anymore? It's because, I don't know. It's like, I just don't like him. And in that moment, I realized something. It's not like she liked him more at the beginning, because she knew that he was an absolute loser. All these factors were always there and nothing changed. What actually changed was that after a while, she wasn't able to ignore these things anymore. Sex was still being the same. If anything, maybe better, because now the guy learned like the patterns and the things that she liked the most. But even with all that, even with all the great performance that he was having, she started to feel disgusted by him. Because even if back then I didn't know this, and she didn't know this either, sex is actually like an important bond between a man and a woman. There's like an spiritual, an emotional, a loving connection that is happening there. And if you don't respect the person, if you don't have genuine feelings for that person that you're sleeping with, that you're sharing your soul, it's going to deteriorate at some moment. Like, your whole body, your soul is going to tell you, hey, this is wrong, cut it off now. And no matter how great it is the sex, at some point that feeling is going to come up. So if your woman is getting sexually frustrated and you're doing everything right and your performance is great and your timing is great and you know that you're being dominant in everything, probably has to be with who you are as a person as well. If you notice that there's something wrong that you've been doing in the relationship, or that you're not proud about you in your life, maybe that's affecting your woman as well. It could be the fact that you're not in shape at all, that your health is actually terrible and that is affecting you, and your woman is getting disgusted a little bit by this, and recently she can't just ignore it anymore. It may be your attitude towards life, and probably you're now like grumpy or like annoying, mad at everything. Maybe you don't have in place things like your finances, that you're like in a bunch of debts, and that is stressing you out, and she can ignore these things. Like, probably there's something that is very wrong in your life right now, that even if you think it's not affecting your sex life at all, probably is doing it. It probably is affecting your relationship as well. You have to fix these things as fast as possible. Not only because of sex, right? It's because it is your life. It's something important for your life as well. If you are the best version of yourself, like the best person that you can be, if you really take care of your life, and you also work in these other things that we discussed before that completely share your sex life, that's when you reach to the sex god level. That's when you have that kind of beautiful and loving connection anytime that you sleep with your woman. That's when sex becomes like this mode of beautiful soul connecting experience every single time. That's why I'm sharing these tips with you today, and why I really wish for you. And just very quick, if you want an organized method, like an organized program to achieve all the things that we discussed, like the timing, the physical performance, the emotional connection, the mental state improvement, if you want to work on all these things and accelerate the process for you to become a sex god, you can go and click the link in the description right now, and we can work together on making that a reality for you as soon as possible. I want to be on your side so you can achieve your goals. But besides that, man, I really hope all this has helped you. I'll see you later. Bye.